Right now, as you watch this, the global energy market is holding its breath. The headlines are screaming about a diplomatic breakthrough, heavily focusing on a supposed 5-day pause in operations. It is day 11 of the conflict, and after witnessing the most intense day of strikes inside Iranian territory, the sudden quiet feels almost unnatural. But here at PrismNews, we do not just read the headlines. We read the logistics, the money flow, and the quiet movements of military assets that the mainstream networks are glossing over. Do not let the word pause fool you. What we are witnessing is not the beginning of peace. It is a calculated tactical recalibration disguised as diplomacy. The administration has claimed that 42 Iranian Navy ships have been knocked out in just 3 days. American forces also completely destroyed 16 inactive mine-laying vessels near the Strait of Hormuz. When you completely dismantle an adversary's conventional maritime capability at that scale, a pause is not a concession. It is a moment taken to reload, reassess, and shift the battlefield from conventional warfare to economic strangulation. You need to ask yourself why this sudden halt is happening when the United States clearly has total air supremacy. The answer lies in the numbers, not the politics. We are looking at a masterclass in asymmetrical pressure. Iran's leadership knows they cannot win a head-to-head naval battle. Their supreme leader was taken offline early in the campaign, and their conventional infrastructure is severely degraded. But their strategy has never been about matching American firepower. See, it is about outlasting American patience and bleeding the American wallet. By forcing a pause, the narrative shifts, but the underlying threat to the global economy remains fully active. If you think your savings and your gas prices are safe because the bombing stopped for a few days, you are falling for the mirage. Let us look at what is actually happening in the shadows of this ceasefire. To understand the real war, you have to look at the sky and do some basic accounting. The mainstream media is fixated on the loud explosions, but the true battle is being fought on a spreadsheet. We are witnessing the absolute limit of conventional defense economics. Let me break down the math of asymmetric warfare for you. An Iranian Shahed 136 drone, the same model being deployed heavily across the region, costs roughly $35,000 to $50,000 to produce. It is essentially a flying lawnmower made of commercially available dual-use parts from over a dozen different countries. It is cheap, it is slow, traveling at only about 120 miles per hour, but it is incredibly abundant. Now, look at the American response. To shoot down that $35,000 piece of flying plastic and metal, the United States and its allies are firing Patriot PAC-3 interceptors. The cost of a single Patriot missile is $4 million. If the threat escalates and requires the THAAD system, that is $13 million per interceptor. This is the definition of an unsustainable cost-benefit ratio. You do not need to be an economist to see that spending $4 million to neutralize a $35,000 threat will drain a military budget faster than any conventional campaign. Every single dollar Iran spends on a drone forces allied nations to spend $20 or more just to shoot it down. In the first week alone, over 2,000 drones were launched. This is exactly why the pause is happening. It is not out of sudden goodwill. The defense chiefs are looking at their stockpiles and realizing that the production timelines for sophisticated missiles are long, and the interceptors are being depleted at a dangerous rate. The United States and European allies simply do not have enough affordable interceptors to supply the region long-term. So, when you hear about a temporary halt, understand that it is a scramble to figure out a new defensive formula before the financial attrition becomes irreversible. How would you feel if your tax dollars were being burned at a ratio of 100-to-1 just to maintain the status quo? While the skies dictate the military spending, the water dictates the global economy. Welcome to the Strait of Hormuz. It is a critical pinch point, just 21 miles across, at its narrowest point. In normal times, around a fifth of the world's daily supply of oil and gas passes through this exact waterway. Right now, maritime traffic has effectively dried up, with hundreds of tankers sitting idle, terrified of moving through an active zone. But the real weapon blocking these ships is not just the threat of physical mines, though the administration has strictly warned against them. The ultimate weapon right now is a piece of paper in London. The insurance syndicates, like Lloyd's of London, are having an absolute nightmare. Traditionally, war premiums for shipping in this region sat at about 1/25 of the hull's value. Because of the strikes, those premiums have surged to between 1% and 3%. When you are insuring a vessel carrying hundreds of millions of dollars worth of energy, a 3% premium is a devastating financial blow. Because of this, shipping companies are going dark. They are turning off their transponders or spoofing their locations, pretending to be vessels from other nations just to sneak through. The entire maritime logistics network is operating like a ghost fleet. The insurance companies cannot track the movements properly, which throws their entire risk modeling into chaos. This means the cost of transporting everything, from crude oil to perishable food goods, is skyrocketing. We are already seeing 40,000 containers a week piling up with limited staging areas. The economic blockade is happening without a single physical wall being built. It is being built by risk, fear, and insurance adjusters. Now, let us connect the dots to something you will not hear on the evening news broadcasts. While the public is distracted by the military movements, the real power brokers are sitting in quiet rooms in Europe. There are strong indications of a high-level Backchannel meeting in Paris, involving key U.S. economic figures, like Scott Bessent, and top Chinese vice premiers. Why? Because the United States needs China to help escort oil tankers through the Gulf. But this is where the geopolitical trap snaps shut. Washington is demanding Beijing help secure the shipping lanes to stabilize global markets. However, Beijing is playing a completely different game. China has been systematically bypassing the Western financial system, utilizing the ghost fleet we just talked about. They are perfectly content letting the chaos endure, because the vessels that are actually getting through unbothered are often the ones carrying oil to Asia, heavily discounted and increasingly settled outside the dollar system. This is the creeping threat of the Petro-Yuan. Every day, the Strait of Hormuz remains contested, and every day traditional Western tankers sit anchored in fear. The alternative financial systems grow stronger. The 5-day pause gives the U.S. administration a desperate window to try and negotiate terms with Beijing, but China has all the leverage. Why would they risk their own assets to stabilize a market that currently allows them to buy cheap energy while their primary geopolitical rival burns through billions of dollars in interceptor missiles? It is a masterful, silent checkmate. You have to look beyond the missiles and see the currency war unfolding beneath the waves. So, what does this high-level geopolitical chess match mean for the average American citizen? It means a domestic energy paradox that is going to hit your wallet hard. We are seeing oil prices that were bumbling around $60 a barrel shoot up to $90, with dire warnings from Qatari energy ministers that a prolonged conflict could push it to $150 a barrel. Aviation fuel has already doubled in price in just a week. Here is the paradox. The United States is producing crude oil at record levels domestically, yet gas prices at your local station are climbing. Why? Because the global market dictates the price, and our refinery infrastructure is heavily optimized for the heavy, sour crude that comes from regions like the Middle East, not just the light, sweet crude we pump out of Texas. When the Middle East sneezes, the American consumer catches a financial cold. Furthermore, this crisis is hitting at the exact moment domestic agencies are facing severe budget scrutiny. We have seen sweeping proposals for government efficiency cuts, hiring freezes, and budget slashed across federal transportation and security sectors. Imagine a scenario where global logistics are in meltdown, supply chains are fracturing, and the very domestic agencies tasked with managing the fallout are operating on skeleton crews due to budget constraints. The friction in the system is building up. This war is not thousands of miles away. It is sitting right at your dinner table in the form of inflation. The official forecasters might try to downplay it, hoping inflation stays around 3%, but the reality of shipping disruptions tells a much darker story. If the United States is feeling the pinch, our European allies are staring down the barrel of an absolute catastrophe. While America has domestic energy buffers, Europe does not. They are heavily reliant on the liquefied natural gas and oil that flows straight through the Gulf. The United Kingdom is already scrambling, sending additional Typhoon fighter jets to Qatar and warships like HMS Dragon to the Mediterranean to try and project stability. But projecting stability does not heat homes. As we move closer to the winter months, the hesitation from European leaders is becoming palpable. They are quietly terrified of the heating bills that will inevitably skyrocket if this conflict continues. They are looking at the American strategy and wondering if the end goal justifies the economic pain they are about to endure. Some Gulf nations are already publicly criticizing the West, feeling abandoned despite the military presence. This creates a massive fracture in the Western alliance. The administration in Washington wants unconditional surrender and total dismantling of the adversary's capabilities. But London, Paris, and Berlin just want the oil to flow before their populations revolt over energy costs. This is the winter ultimatum. The adversary knows that if they can just hold out, keep sending cheap drones, and keep the insurance premiums high, the European public will eventually force their leaders to break ranks with the United States. It is a brilliant, terrifying application of economic pressure over military might. So, how does the coalition break this cycle of asymmetric financial drain? The answer is coming from an unexpected place: Ukraine. While the sophisticated Patriot systems are failing the cost-benefit test, the Ukrainian military has spent the last few years mastering the exact art of taking down cheap drones. They have developed specialized interceptor drones that travel at 150 miles per hour, fast enough to catch and destroy the incoming threats. These Ukrainian interceptors are built from cheap, intuitive technology. They cost a fraction of a traditional surface-to-air missile, effectively destroying an inexpensive asset with another inexpensive asset. We are now seeing reports that Ukrainian Special Forces commanders are consulting with Gulf states like the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and Bahrain, offering concrete steps and training on how to deploy these mobile defense groups. This is a massive shift in military doctrine. The United States is having to look at a partner nation, one that has been fighting a grinding war of survival, to learn how to defend multi-billion-dollar bases in the Middle East from hobbyist-level technology. It proves that the future of warfare is not just about who has the biggest bomber or the most expensive stealth jet. It is about adaptability and ruthless economic efficiency. The fact that Gulf states are looking to Kyiv for air defense solutions instead of just buying more American hardware should be a massive wake-up call for the traditional defense industry. Let us bring this all together, Prism News viewers. You have seen the mirage of the 5-day pause. You have seen the unsustainable math of the drone war. You have seen the ghost fleets and the quiet rise of alternative currencies. The world order is physically and financially restructuring right in front of our eyes. When global supply chains are held hostage by $35,000 drones, and when the insurance industry has the power to shut down 20% of the world's oil supply, fiat currency becomes incredibly vulnerable. The inflation that is coming from this supply shock cannot be fixed by a central bank simply printing more money or tweaking interest rates. If oil hits $150 a barrel, the purchasing power of your dollar will evaporate. This is why you must look at real assets. During times of massive geopolitical restructuring and supply chain warfare, commodities, precious metals, and tangible assets become the only true safe havens. Do not be distracted by the political theater or the promises of quick diplomatic fixes. The strategic attrition we are witnessing is designed to last. Prepare yourself for a prolonged period of economic friction. Be smart, look past the headlines, and understand the real game being played with your future. Thank you for seeking the truth with Prism News. Stay vigilant, and we will see you in the next deep dive.